Okay, welcome everyone to my first video on the MMO series that I said I was going to do however long ago. So yeah, we're finally starting off. We're starting with WoW because I looked at my game time and realised I have like 8 or 9 days left. So yeah, I thought it was the best one to start with because, you know, probably best to start with the one that I'm not going to be able to record and play anymore in like a week's time. So that's why I'm starting with WoW. Not because there's some massive controversy going on at the moment at the company, although that is it's big news. It's big news for sure. But yeah, I thought I'd start with WoW, and then in the following episodes I will cover Final Fantasy XIV, which I got into this summer. In fact, I have just beaten Heavensward. Doing the linking quests at the moment while leveling up a new job to play for future expansions, the Dark Knight. As well as that, I've also gotten into SWTOR. I got into that. Star Wars: The Old Republic. That was kind of late December, early January. I haven't done the expansions, but I've played that a lot. That video will probably be towards the end of this series, so maybe in a month or two's time. ESO, of course, Elder Scrolls Online, my favourite MMO. Really want to talk about that one. As well as that, New World, of course, and possibly some others. All, of course, from a casual's perspective. That's kind of the whole point of this series, is really giving a casual's perspective, because I think a lot of the time, you look up a video, for example, it'll be, you know, WoW, you're going to see probably Asmongold videos, or Final Fantasy currently. Final Fantasy, you'll see like Zeppler videos, and so on. SWTOR, SWTORista, these big kind of the main channels for these. You know, ESO is Allcast and a couple of others as well. Of course, there's quite a few for each MMO, and that's kind of how it's all going at the moment. So that's where a lot of people are getting their info from. And I think I kind of wanted to make a video series that kind of helps casual players like me who play through the main content, enjoy the gameplay, enjoy the RPG elements, enjoy the story, and so on, but aren't necessarily deep into the end game content. I like end game to an extent. Unfortunately, if a game makes me grind too much, this is actually, I was thinking about doing a Destiny 2 one as well at some point, because that's very relevant to the MMO space, even if it's not really an MMO. But that's really relevant because I'm not a massive grinder, but I really want to get the Vault of Glass seal, which is like a title you get for doing everything. But you have to grind so much just to do these Master Vogs because they are really high level content. And for most players, it's just been a massive turn off because they just can't be asked. Because they could be playing other games with that time or doing other things, hobbies and so on. You know, I mean, like, talking about hobbies. Look, I mean, sheesh, you want to see some cool shit? Look at that. Look at, oh, there's my camera. Look at that towel. Wow, I painted that. Amazing. Am I making a army? No, I don't care for that shit. I just did it because I needed something to do. That was a bit random, but there you go. I did that because I wasn't grinding on every single game I play. And also, I'm like an MMO connoisseur in the way that I just love playing them all. I love getting little tastes of each one. But wow, World of Warcraft. It's the main one to talk about today. Any gameplay I'm going to show, I'm probably going to play some classic and just walk around and show off the zones, so don't expect anything in depth. There'll be better gameplay, like actual dungeons and stuff, for the other games because I actually care about playing those ones. WoW I've just gotten bored of. I started playing WoW back in Legion. Actually, the first time I think I played it was, I want to say, Mists of Pandaria. I played the free trial. That was like early secondary school, maybe. I can't remember. It was a while ago, or like midway through secondary school. So that was kind of my original like introduction to WoW. Of course, unfortunately, as of recently, I'm not going to cover it in much detail because I don't think it's really. Is my camera? Yo, refocus, please. There we go. Of course, there's the recent sexual, or how should I say this? I don't know if YouTube's going to get upset. Sexual harassment and lots of even worse stuff at Blizzard and Activision. Obviously Ubisoft was recent, not that long ago as well. We found out all sorts of awful stuff going on there. It could be happening at all sorts of businesses, unfortunately. It just does happen. The best I think we can hope for, I'll link some articles down below if you're interested, if you haven't already heard about it. I might even link maybe like an Asmongold video. He had a pretty good take on the whole thing. Obviously you just hope that the wrongdoers are taken out of the company, ideally arrested, and if they can be, if there's evidence for it and it's proven, and what's going to happen to Blizzard, I don't know. There's leaks that Blizzard's eventually going to get phased out and shut down, in part because of what's happened, and Activision will just continue using the IPs, and will like kind of keep them as like just Activision Studios. I don't know how true that is. I can't even remember where I saw that article, so I don't know. Don't take that with a big pinch of salt. But I don't know what's happening to Blizzard. Clearly they need a big change though. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about WoW. So WoW from a casual's perspective. So this game gets a lot of hate nowadays. I think it's almost fashionable to hate on WoW a little bit. I've played Classic, but I didn't reach really that far into it. Classic is just a slog. I'm not into the old MMOs, I don't think. I really want to. I think if they make a Wrath of the Lich King Classic, that will be when I'll actually try and get into it. But I've struggled, even with Burning Crusade. It's just, it can be a slog at times. A lot of those things you take for granted in modern MMOs just isn't there. Like telling you where the objective is and stuff. I know that sounds so silly, but like, you have to use a lot more of your brain, or you have to download a mod. And it's like, yeah, okay. But the actual gameplay of WoW at the moment is fine. Okay, yes, there are patches that, from what I've heard, absolutely ruin certain builds, certain classes. That's kind of the nature of a lot of these games. I think Final Fantasy's probably got some of the best balancing, and even then, there'll still be a patch that will take, I think in Endwalker, the newest expansion that's coming out, I think like the healer meta is changing. So I think White Mage is meant to be the best one now, and the Yu-Gi-Oh healer, the Arcanist, whatever they're called, is gonna be nerfed. But they'll still both be really, really good, like either way, because Final Fantasy do very minute changes rather than big ones, and I think that kind of helps. And obviously this isn't the Final Fantasy video, but with WoW, yes, there are definitely some classes that are playable if you're a casual like me. If you just want to, like, you can be a druid, whatever. I feel like one of the druids is quite low down at the moment, and just quest and do dungeons and stuff. But if you want to do that end game content, you're going to struggle. Or if you're not struggling, you're going to get kicked out because teams just will be toxic and just get rid of you because you're not the right class, and it's all that sort of stuff going on. But for me, the gameplay is just so good. The combat is responsive. I mean, I'm not a big tab target combat guy. I prefer action combat. That's why ESO is like my favourite one. But the tab target combat in WoW is just so crisp. I think the overall kind of world exploration experience, although it's not very rewarding, it's not like Elder Scrolls Online where you have the kind of these classic Elder Scrolls markers where you can just discover something and get XP for it. WoW doesn't really do that, but you still want to explore because of how, intricate and detailed these worlds are. Even with the art style being kind of cartoony and whatever, you still want to explore, and some of the areas look incredible. Like, you just kind of go, whoa, that looks nice. And even considering how old it is, like even some of the older zones that are like almost as old as me. When did the game come out? 2004? 5 in Europe, 2005 in Europe. So WoW came out when I was like 6. Yeah, around then. So, you can obviously, the game's aged, but they've also updated the graphics well enough whereby even the old zones look pretty good. Like, I was playing Realm Reborn, and some of the older zones, I was like, oh yikes, this doesn't look that great. The newer zones look really nice, but some of the older zones, I'm almost like, damn, they almost need to do just a tweak or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm over exaggerating a bit. It still looks pretty good, but maybe I'm just being picky, and this is my Final Fantasy video. But I think with WoW, they've done a really good job at keeping everything, even the really old stuff, still looking pretty good. Apart from gear. Gear's like so low res. It's so low res in the original zones. But the worst offense for me as a casual in the gameplay department, I like my story. Okay, even WoW's story. I know not everyone's a big fan of WoW and how they do their storytelling in the game. Most people just like the cutscenes. But for me, so there's a new thing called Chromie that came along in Shadowlands, and basically he's like, yo, I'll teleport you to the time zone, and you can play through the old expansions, and everything will be, you know, your level and stuff. Problem is, they did the level squish, which was really good. Took it down to level 60 from 120. But once you reach level 48, I think it happened to me, maybe it's level 50, you just completely lose all of the quests. All the quests just disappear. Like, you can, the ones that you still have on you, you can still go and complete, but you're going to get barely any XP because everything just stops scaling. This is an issue, right? Because for me, I was playing through Mists of Pandaria. I think I was about halfway through, maybe a bit more than that. And I was having such a good time. I was like, damn, I'm really enjoying this story. And maybe the issue was the fact that I had actually started with Wrath and gotten bored of Wrath, so had switched to Mists. So maybe if I just had done a character from scratch and gone straight into Mists of Pandaria, maybe I wouldn't have had the same issue. Maybe I would have been able to complete the whole story. But the fact that it cut me off and it didn't allow me to go back to Chromie and like be like, hey, can I go back into that time and have it scale? WoW needs scaling. For the casuals people, right? If the newer zones don't scale, that's fine. But even the newer zones, I was in Shadowlands and I was like, oh, I had to go do some quests to level up for the next quest. Went back to the older zone and I was getting no XP anymore, and I was like, Bastion's not, I think it was Bastion. It's like, why am I not getting any XP? It's so not casual friendly because, you know, I'm used to ESO. I'm used to now Final Fantasy as well. Whereby if I go back, it's just scaling me down. You know, the newer content, not in ESO's case, but in Final Fantasy's case, you'll feel more powerful the more powerful you get. But when you go back to the older content, it's going to take your power down so you don't feel too OP, so that you can still complete that content and get good rewards. Which is what creates a really good gameplay loop, particularly at the end of the game, the end game, because you can keep going back to old stuff and still get relevant rewards. While with WoW, you don't. Also, I think my face is getting shone by light. It's not even that bright outside, by the way. I think it's just my camera. So, of course, just remember that this is a casual's opinion, but I think for me, you know, that was a big deal breaker, and that was actually kind of why I was like, I'll beat Shadowlands and then I'm leaving. So that was a big issue. Just to quickly note on Classic's gameplay, because I'm not going to make a separate video just for Classic. With Classic, of course, you've not got like the overload of content, which means you don't have to travel back. You play Vanilla, and then once you've completed Vanilla, you go straight into Burning Crusade. And I think by the time Wrath comes out, you'll still be fine as well, because you'll just go through Vanilla, Burning Crusade, and then Wrath. Of course, that leveling experience is fine because it means you get to do everything. And everything is still fairly relevant to an extent. But with retail, WoW, that's where the issue you run into, whereby you can't really go back and play the old content. And if you do, it's nowhere near as good as an experience as it should be. And it's a shame because some of that old content is so good that you just I want to play Mists of Pandaria. You know, I want to play Wrath, I want to play Cataclysm, I want to go back and experience these expansions that I didn't get to play because I started with Legion. And it's really disappointing. It's actually the most disappointing thing, I think, with WoW for a casual player. For hardcore players, they don't care, they just want to get to the end game, and I think my camera's being stupid again. They just want to get to that end game and grind. But it's not for everyone. The way they do it is just naff. It's not that good. Moving on, we're going to talk about the main content and then the end game. I've obviously kind of already talked about both of these. I don't want to keep the video too long either because I don't have to record loads of gameplay. I will cut in and out of gameplay, of course. But for the main content, like I said, Chromie really screwed it up. But when you actually play it, when you can play it, whether you know, for that short window, because the leveling up is now so quick, getting to level 50, I was playing and I was like, damn, this main content is still so good. Even Shadowlands, the main content of Shadowlands, the main story, not considering the new patch stuff they've added in, the actual main story of it, the main bulk, was pretty damn good. I had a really good time. You know, do I care that much about Sylvanas as a villain? Not particularly. Do the two sides and their leadership really compel me? Not really. Don't get me wrong, they're fine, but I just enjoyed the journey, the travel. You know, what is it the best story WoW's had? No, but it could be worse. And I thought it was pretty good for the most part. Did I do Horde? No, I think I did Alliance. Not that it really matters. And if people are wondering, like BFA, I've only fully completed that on Alliance. I was like halfway through with, or maybe not even halfway, maybe I was like a third through on Horde. Both are fine. I think what's also worth mentioning is the classes. I guess that kind of that's kind of main content. Is also, I guess, the gameplay. All the classes still feel really good. Like I said, from a casual's perspective, I'm not min-maxing, getting ready for endgame content. I'm not worried if I get kicked out of an activity because I'm not even playing the game anymore. Or at least not really. All the classes feel fine. There's a lot of them. Does WoW need any more classes? Probably not. I mean, every game needs new classes every once in a while, but I don't for one second log onto WoW and go, oh damn, I really need another class to level up. So I think that's always pretty good. It's good content. There's a lot of classes in there. My personal, recommendations. I think Paladin's pretty fun, as well as Hunter and Druid and Mage. A bit basic with the Mage there. I know some people think, oh, you're just a Mage. You're just an arcane mage firing off your arcane missiles. But it's good. It's good fun. So yeah, and then the end game content, as I've already mentioned as well. I'm just not there for the grind, and I think at the moment there's just not even much there to do. I think if all of the old dungeons were accessible, if there was just a button, right, not a specific queue, but let's just say there was like an LFG or a queue up system where you could just do random dungeon any, and that was the only option. It was either that or the new relevant dungeons that was sectioned out. How good would that be? Just to click random dungeon and you can do a dungeon. It could put you in a Mists dungeon or a Wrath dungeon or a base game dungeon, a vanilla dungeon. That would be so good, particularly for new players that never got to experience it, to just click that button, get a good solid reward out of it, have it all scale, and just be able to experience some of the old content. Even that would be an improvement over their current system, especially with the lack of a good kind of system to go back and experience that old content. And all WoW needs to do is make it so Chromie time can be activated beyond level 50. That's all they need to do, and it would fix half of my issues with the game. Forget hardcore players' issues, that would fix half my issues with the game if they just did that. I guess the last thing I really want to mention is how do they improve WoW. This is kind of the biggest thing for me as a, one of the jobs I would love to have, but I don't think I'll ever do it, is like games design. And why is, this camera, I'm not a camera technician, it is a webcam as well, it's awful. But what I would love to see for WoW to do, and I've heard a lot of people go, WoW needs a Realm Reborn. No, it doesn't. WoW is now 16, 17 years old. It's almost 2 decades old. It's almost as old as me, really. WoW needs a WoW 2. Final Fantasy XIV isn't the first Final Fantasy MMO. Final Fantasy XIV is the second Final Fantasy MMO. Final Fantasy XI was the first Final Fantasy MMO, to my knowledge at least. We need the same with WoW now. WoW's had a good run. If I was at Blizzard, I would say this. Exactly this, right? I'd be like, hey, let's do a Cataclysm 2. Don't call it Cataclysm 2 though, that'd be a bit on the nose. Call it like World of Warcraft End Times or something. I don't know. It could be anything. Something maybe a bit more creative than that. And just have an event, and then at the end of it, give people time to complete the expansion, and then at the end you do a big event, and it ends with like that kind of Fortnite servers down thing. When like everything gets sucked in the black hole. Now, obviously, you'd only do that stunt for like a day, and then by the time you get to the next day, you'd open the servers back up, people can continue playing. But at the end of it, you'd announce World of Warcraft 2 is coming. And then you'd keep the servers open so people can continue to play. You'd continue, but you just wouldn't release any more expansions. So if WoW 2 took 4, 5, 6 years to make, in between that, you'd just release classics. Wrath of the Lich King classic. Cataclysm classic, Mists of Pandaria classic, even Warlord of Draenor. I don't know, however many you need to release until WoW 2 can come out. So I think that would be ideal. Mainly because WoW needs a new engine, better graphics. It can still keep that kind of World of Warcraft art style, that kind of cartoony, kind of over-the-top high fantasy art style. I think that's fine. It just needs to be crisper, nicer, optimized as well for not only new hardware, but it needs to be of course optimized. Modern technology will help with that, and just overall built from the ground up to be better. I don't know if WoW 2 would be another subscription MMO. For me now, I think subscription MMOs aren't completely redundant. Final Fantasy XIV, for example. Ashes of Creation will also be a subscription-based MMO. I've forgotten about that. I know I've missed the last 2 months of updates. I've just been so busy. So, I think subscription could work, but I would like to see a WoW whereby, it's a more accessible game. Maybe they make it from the ground up so it can work with controller like Final Fantasy XIV does. If they can do it, WoW definitely can. That'd be really nice, because then they could put it on console. Just from the ground up, just make WoW 2 what WoW should be now, but isn't. I think that's what's needed. Not everyone's going to agree with me right now. Obviously, I'm just a casual. I don't play WoW to death. I'm not the biggest WoW fan out there. But that's just what I think needs to happen, man. It's sad to see. And it might not even get a chance to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with Blizzard going on forwards. They've got a very rich IP library. But I wouldn't be surprised if Activision effectively just, took the skeletons out of the closet, threw them in the bin, and just kept the IPs. It's possible. It is definitely possible. So that is it. That is it for WoW. I'll try and put a little bit of gameplay over the top here and there, but I really don't want to play it. I'm going to record a little bit though. I think I really want WoW to get to a good place again. I think WoW, at its core, is still a good game. It just really struggles in a lot of areas where it really shouldn't be as an MMO. Unfortunately, a lot of MMOs come across these sort of hurdles, but on top with all the recent controversy, it makes it even worse. And it's just highlighted that situation, really. So that is my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next time, it's either going to be ESO or Final Fantasy XIV, depending on which one I pick. I'll try and get it out by next week. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.